The Celtics have a serious problem, as we saw in last night's game. Their free throw efficiency and lackadaisical defense and passing ultimately cost them this game versus the Denver Nuggets. But it's not something to freak out about and worry about, as the Celtics are still going to be a top contending team. But the media thinks otherwise, as they think the Celtics have a serious issue. We got to dive in and break on all of this Celtics news. We got some quotes, we got some tweets. We'll be breaking down all of that here on this episode of Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Veliz. Without further ado, before we dive into this Celtics content, I'd like to say that 77% of our viewers are not subscribed, and would appreciate if you hit that big old red subscribe button down below. If you want to make sure you stay up to date on daily Boston Celtics content coverage like this video, hit that subscribe button. But let's dive into this topic at hand today. Make sure to grab a snack, as it is going to be a jam-packed episode, as we'll be exploring how this disrespect is absolutely ridiculous from the fans here and from the media, as the Celtics unfortunately lost versus the Denver Nuggets last night. We're going to look at some glaring issues that the Celtics did have in that loss, but also see why everybody is overreacting. First, if we want to dive in, and look at the Celtics, we can see Jayson Tatum did not have the greatest performance last night. 5 for 13 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, 15 points. Looked a little bit soft on the defensive side of the ball here. Kristaps, Porzingis, Jaylen Brown, they played fantastic. Derrick White didn't have the greatest offensive game, but was guarding and playing great defensively. And the Celtics bench had some, signs of life with Tillman and Hauser, but unfortunately could not just capitalize. Like I mentioned, the Denver Nuggets absolutely destroyed. Nikola Jokic put up a fierce triple-double versus the Celtics team, and Aaron Gordon was just being able to feast on those offensive boards. The Celtics were lucky enough to have Jaylen Brown get his career high with 6 offensive rebounds, but unfortunately for the Boston Celtics, it was just not that great of a boxing out job late at the end of the game, as Aaron Gordon was able to get a plethora of putbacks. We want to keep in and keep exploring this game as well. We can look at the team stats and look at some glaring issues that the Celtics had in this matchup. The first issue that I want to talk about is the free throw percentage. Now, I know I've been crucifying the Boston Celtics in past videos. If you guys have been a long-term subscriber, you guys know from the start of the season, me harping on the free throws, making sure that it is a necessity that the Celtics make them and it helps them win these games. And versus the Denver Nuggets, that would have helped them out tremendously. As you guys can see, the Celtics were 16 for 25 from the free throw, missing a total of 9 of them, shooting 64%, compared to the Nuggets 95% with only missing 1. I know that obviously doesn't affect the game as a whole, but it definitely is a little bit of an X factor, as we can look and see. We can see that Jaylen Brown, unfortunately for the Boston Celtics, did shoot 7 for 14 from the free throw line. Now, we know he doesn't excel at the free throw, but that is something he needs to work on and practice on for game situations like this, and game situations when we go up against tough opponents, where we know we're going to be at the foul line and playing very physical. The Celtics tried to match the Nuggets' physicality on that defensive side of the ball, but unfortunately the Nuggets played very physical and were dominating on that side. The Nuggets also had a bunch of guys from their bench that were hitting their shots, where the Celtics had little stints of that. The Nuggets had that consistently throughout the game. Fortunately, like I mentioned for the Celtics as well, the turnovers weren't that big of a problem either. The Celtics had 12 compared to the Nuggets' total of 8, but the Celtics, kind of were playing a little bit lazy, kind of giving some passes. If you guys watch the game, there were multiple times where they were attacking the rim and then going to pass out for 3 to Kristaps Porzingis to Jaylen Brown. The player would not be ready for the ball. It would fall out of their hands, and Payton Watson or Reggie Jackson would just get a steal and just drive and go for a nice, easy layup on a fast break. That types of things can't be happening, especially against these well-oiled machines like the Denver Nuggets. Let me know your guys' initial reactions, initial thoughts down below in the comment section. Like I mentioned, we do post-game live streams from now on, getting our reactions and yours. Last night we had one following that Denver Nuggets, unfortunate upset for the Celtics. We stayed up till 1 in the morning. We had everybody there. It was a fantastic stream. So if that's something that you want to enjoy or something you want to partake in, make sure to join those live streams. We'll have another post-game live stream on Saturday night following the Phoenix Suns matchup. But if we want to dive in and look at some quotes here about the Boston Celtics, we can see this first quote from Noah Dalzell talking about Kristaps Porzingis, saying that he feels that the Nuggets doesn't have their number. I don't like this, that they keep our number. I don't like this type of phrase. They beat us a couple of times. The margin of who wins or loses is so small. He's honestly right. It is the regular season. Yes, the Denver Nuggets did come in and beat the Celtics at their home court. They did embarrass them, which was, giving them their first home loss, which was, sad. We didn't get to see Kristaps Porzingis really dominate in that fourth quarter. The Celtics kind of went away from him on that offensive side. They opened up this second half pummeling with Kristaps Porzingis, as he had the Celtics' first 6 of 8 points on that 8-0 run. Kristaps Porzingis, unfortunately, just wasn't that great from 3 last night, as we can look back and see. 3 for 10 from the 3-point range is definitely not effective. Now, I do think that this is going to be the finals matchup, and I think that these are the 2 clear best teams in NBA. So I'm really excited to see how this could look at in a playoff scenario, because I do think that the Celtics won't have nights where they, shoot terribly from 3 or have lackadaisical defense. There are going to be times where they get that Nuggets number and they bounce back. We want to look at another tweet as well from Noah Dalzell, who does a fantastic job. She talks about how Jaylen Brown said he wanted to guard Nikola Jokic. I feel like I should have gotten Jokic a little bit more. I wish I'd have had those opportunities a little bit. I can bet on him. I could keep him away from the basket, and we could take away some of those layups that they got. Now, Noah Dalzell also hyped up that Jaylen Brown did a great job, not just offensively, but defensively as well down the stretch on Jamal Murray, as he only had 4 points, 2 for 5 from the field, and 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter. Obviously, like she mentions, Jokic would be a completely different challenge, but the way that JB has guarded this year, I'm curious how he would handle it. And I'm kind of curious too. Now, obviously, Jaylen Brown was the best scorer for this Boston Celtics squad. He had a season high last night of 41 points, 14 rebounds, 4 assists with 2 steals, and only 2 turnovers to go with it. So a very great stat line for our guy in Jaylen Brown. Now, obviously, since the Celtics were running that offense through him, Jayson Tatum wasn't really hitting his shots, couldn't really find his rhythm. Jaylen Brown had to be, 100% used on that offensive side of the ball. So maybe they didn't want to, exert too much of his energy on the defensive side of the ball because they needed him to keep this offense and to keep it going, which I personally thought was the reason why they didn't put him on Nikola Jokic. But as we've seen throughout this whole entire year, we've seen Jaylen Brown guard the opposing team's best player in most instances, and we have seen him succeed in that way. So maybe a couple different plays or different defensive schemes, you could have run a switch and thrown Jaylen Brown on him. I think that it could have helped out in that two-way defense, helped out with the Celtics stopping him at the rim, like he mentioned. Obviously, Aaron Gordon was able to get a lot of offensive rebounds, be able to fight through those box outs. The Celtics could not secure any box outs late in the end of the game, because even if Jokic was missing those layups, a guy like Aaron Gordon, Payton was absolutely crashing that glass and throwing down a ferocious dunk. Now, the last thing that I do want to mention, talking about how this Celtics team and talking about this, is Nikola Jokic kind of gave the Celtics some praise here, saying that they're a really good team. They have an answer for everything matchup-wise, defense-wise, offense-wise, and they're a really good, well-built team, and they're playing really good, So he gave the Celtics some respect, gave them, their kudos, their props, because the Celtics are one of the best teams in the NBA. They are fighting. They are competing. And like we mentioned, they have the best record in the NBA, top 5 offense, top 5 defense, number 1 in net rating. This team is excelling at all cylinders. And Nikola Jokic realized that. We're one of the only teams in this Eastern Conference that can really give them a rivalry, give them a shot. And he could see that clearly in last night's game, as you saw his emotion and his X factor come out of his game when he was yelling. But apparently, even though Nikola Jokic, the 2-time MVP and Finals MVP from last year, thinks that the Celtics are still a dominant team, the media thinks otherwise. And this is absolutely blasphemous. Another tweet here from Noah Dalzell. A bunch of Celtics people were talking about this. ESPN, first thing in the morning, puts, does Boston still have playoff hope? Titled a video, Jayson Tatum came up small versus Nuggets impact on Celtics playoff hopes. Noah Dalzell LOLs this. I totally agree. This is absolutely outrageous and an outrageous take. As we all know, ESPN is based in Los Angeles. They're not going to like the Boston Celtics as the Lakers and Celtics big rivalry. They obviously love the Warriors. That's why Bob Myers was given his credit. Still able to speak when the Celtics were blowing out this Warriors team by 50 last game that they played on ESPN. Now, the funny thing about this is, and I saw this on Twitter as well, is if we want to look back at a couple of days ago, the Milwaukee Bucks got absolutely embarrassed by this Golden State Warriors team. A team that the Celtics beat by more than 50 total points. And the Milwaukee Bucks are supposed to be a team that is rivaling the Boston Celtics, contending as the second best team. People from Milwaukee or people in the media think that Milwaukee is the only team that can stop Boston besides Miami. And it's absolutely crazy to think that no one is talking about this. No one's talking about how Giannis is bad, how the Warriors, exploited the Milwaukee Bucks and absolutely destroyed them. No one's knocking the Bucks for that at all. But when the Celtics win a 50-point game and blow out the Warriors, it's a knock on the Celtics saying, Jaylen Brown's a bad three-point shooter. We wanted to leave him open. We wanted to let him shoot. It just doesn't make any sense. And the media is clearly grasping at straws here, trying to make a bigger narrative of Jayson Tatum being weaker and smaller, even though that's not the truth. The casual fans, they want to say what they want to say. The Twitter fans, they want to say what they want to say. But it is absolutely ridiculous that we're getting to this point, because the Celtics, like I mentioned, are the number 1 team in the NBA record-wise. They have a top 5 offense and a top 3 defense and a top 5 defense and the best net rating in the entire NBA. This team can have hiccups of, losing 2 games in a row. It's happened before this season. We've seen this in November. Early on in the season, we played Minnesota, we played Philadelphia, we lost 2 straight. But since then, we haven't been able to do that. Look at every other team in the NBA. I guarantee you, every other team in the NBA has multiple 2-game stints where they've lost back-to-back. So you can't complain if you're the Boston Celtics. You can't be saying that we're not a X factor. We're not a competent team. We're not ready to go, because this team is clearly ready to go. Yes, they had a missed fluke versus this Denver Nuggets squad. So what? Everybody does. Everybody's going to have a missed fluke versus the defending champions. And yes, the Celtics do have the best starting 5. They do have these expectations. But until we see it in playoff time, until we see a final series where the Celtics do lose, I'm still believing in this squad. I'm still thinking that they're the top team to come out of the Eastern Conference. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, because I think this is absolute blasphemous that ESPN would even release something like this when the Celtics are so dominant and they just had a 2-game skit. Yeah, they want to hype on Jayson Tatum, calling him MVP, saying he deserves MVP, and then today, now we're going to see Jayson Tatum, this ruined his MVP chance. You guys are the reason why that Jayson Tatum is hyped up to be this MVP. ESPN, you are, because you are the major sports outlet. So how can you hype him up one week and then absolutely bash on his name the other? Is absolutely ridiculous, and this is why major media companies need to stop this. Sorry for my little rant at the end. I'm just a very passionate Celtics fan and very, very frustrated that we have to see this on our timelines and have to deal with this as Celtics fans, because clearly the media is just picking an agenda, and all those casual fans that are fans of teams that haven't even made the playoffs are hating on the Celtics, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Like I said, sorry for the little rant. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. If you guys enjoy videos like this, make sure to check the 2 videos up top and to stay tuned on all this Celtics Digest stuff. Like I mentioned, we have a live stream Saturday night, tomorrow night, breaking down the post game. Hope to catch you all there, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.